Trustees. We are being audio taped and video.
Unless you, after you have a chance to take a look at it, unless you have any specific, too much to say about it, we're 6 months into the fiscal year, 55% spent out, which is not unusual. And I think everything is pretty much in line with where it needs to be. But please, if you have a question, please let me know.
Anyone have anything? Okay. We need a motion.
I make a motion to accept.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. New business, the upgrade to the HVAC system.
Have you all had a chance to look at the email I sent a couple of weeks ago? Okay. I had heard of a, well, after I sent this email out, I didn't get a response from anyone with additional questions, so figured you didn't have it. When I sent the email out about the service agreement, Jen did have some questions about that, and they were similar to my own questions, and I emailed the company by 8:30 Monday morning and have yet to get a response. So I think we should table talking about the service agreement today, but just stick to the original item on the agenda, which is to talk about this, replacing the controller. I mean, I think we're sort of in a corner. If you don't accept this, they're going to take away what's temporarily keeping the system going, and you're going to have to go out to bid to get a whole new system. So I think, at least in terms of getting this Jace controller replaced so that the system runs, I think we're very limited in what we can do for that. I think answer the very clear questions about some discrepancies in the contract versus their initial email. And maybe we could get another company to service the system in the future, but I think you at least need to move forward on updating it with their recommendation with this controller.
Question, Dana. Is it normal for this thing to let go? It's only, what, 5
So
years?
that was in, I believe, in the email that I sent you all, that, because I had asked that question of them, and the battery has already failed on it.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it was installed in 2014, we didn't move in here until 2015, so even though it had been here for a year, we weren't here using it. Sure, it was running, but nobody was using it here, and I'm sure it was being used very minimally, just to keep the building warm and to keep it cool in the summer. So that was 1 year off of an 18-month warranty that the item had, and I wasn't aware it only had an 18-month warranty. I mean, as I'm sure people who were on the board when we first moved here, which I believe is only the two of you know, there's no information on anything at all. So within a couple of months of moving here, the system failed for the first time, and they had to come out and do service to it. If they had maybe said, hey, you've only got 6 months left to this warranty, maybe something could have been done then, because we've called them so many times since, February of 2016. So, and how we lucked out and didn't have to call them for almost 2 years is beyond me after calling them so regularly. But
Don't you have a service agreement on
no, we've never had a service agreement with them. We've never had. We've just paid for service each time they've come out. So we've never, and that's one of the questions, or one of the things I said in my email to them on Monday, was that they've never, that I'm aware of, they've never offered us a service agreement. They never talked about an annual contract to come in and do updates. That was never suggested at all. That every time they came and made a service call, they didn't follow that up with, you might want to get under a service agreement so that we can perform updates to your system. That's never happened. So They're saying that is normal that could happen. I mean, he did say, because my question was, well, in the future, should we expect that this is gonna happen in another 5 years? And he did say that it could, the new system should last 10 years. So, I mean,
It should.
should. And again, it would be under an 18-month hardware warranty. So we'd be starting over with that 18-month
And what about the service
warranty.
agreement? Did he tell you how much that was gonna be?
Well, that's the second email that I had sent you all, was the service agreement of close to $1,000 a year, but I don't even think we should talk about that service agreement right now, because there's way too many questions about what's included in that agreement and what isn't, and would it be worth it? I don't know, but until we get those questions answered, I think we'll just table the thought of the service agreement right now. If that's my recommendation to you all, is that you table that, and just talk about whether or not to take this quote for $5,200 for a new Jace
Well,
controller.
heaven's over a barrel. What are you gonna do? You gonna
Right.
do it? You're gonna,
Right, if you don't do it, I mean, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go without a heater in January? Like, that's,
there's nobody else
I mean, they'll-
services it, right?
we might be able to get someone else to come service it, but in terms of getting this controller, I mean, you'd have to go out to bid to get a new controller. We couldn't do something like, go to another company now with how much you're gonna charge us to install the controller without going out to bid for a new company altogether. Maybe there could be someone else who could service it once the new controller was in, which is one of the reasons why I'm recommending we put aside the service agreement discussion for now, so we can figure that out. I mean, accepting this isn't contingent on also doing a service agreement. I just was wanting to know a rough estimate of how much a service agreement would be, so that if one of you asked me today, I'd have that answer. And instead, they sent an entire service agreement proposal,
So they
with a
have-
lot of loopholes,
So
or
they
a
have
lot of
18, they
questions.
really have 18 months to find information on
Correct.
somebody
right.
else, if there's somebody else.
Right, because it'll
Okay.
come with that 18-month
Okay.
warranty.
Is this their message, is that who installed it?
Yes.
Okay.
And they were contracted through Rise Engineering, who the town has used on other projects. As I mentioned in my email, originally, the quote, even though I've been the contact person for Air Masters since December of 2015, they still sent the quote for the new Jace to Jim Merritt for some reason, even though I've been the contact since 2015. Which is fine, and I'm actually happy that he saw the quote, because he then contacted the people that he's dealt with at Rise Engineering to say, hey, wait a second, we've already, we've been paying them all this money, and now, to come and do service on the machine, because I believe I told you, it's been about $1,500 on maintenance costs, plus a new battery since 2016, and the last bill for when they came to do the, put in this temporary thing we're using now is $750, so that's $2,200 in 4 years. So Jim did say, but the company that contracts this company, so Rise Engineering, who contracted with Air Masters, says that that's pretty normal for 5 years of having something, and then when you divide that amount by 5 years, it's a percentage that's in a normal range percent that someone should expect to spend on equipment like this. But again, that's never been told that no one ever said 4 years ago to me, and as far as I know, not to anyone on the board, that, hey, you should budget, 10%, of what this costs every year for maintenance costs. No one ever said that. So every time we pay maintenance on this, it comes out of the stock gift fund, so that's been the $2,200. And I did bring you a to-date balance of what's in the gift fund, because that's what this $5,200 or almost $5,300 will have to come from, is from that. And it has an ending balance of released funds, which means we've already voted to release those funds, so you wouldn't have to vote today to release additional funding to cover this. So, I mean,
You don't have any
have the
choice.
money readily available. And
Don't have
I
any
don't
choice.
think there is a choice. I don't think there is. If Jim doesn't think there is. I mean,
No.
it seems like this is, the engineering firm doesn't think there is. It's sort of, this is it. And I mean, I don't even know what this system cost initially to begin with, because I don't have any paperwork on what was spent prior to my working in town. I don't have that at my fingertips, and I haven't been able to get it, so. Yeah, that's, So unfortunately, this is, I think, you know, we take this upgrade or this update, get this new Jace controller in, and then we're, you know, get some more information on a service agreement, whether or not a service agreement with this company is worth it, whether or not there's another company who could service it and provide a less expensive
Is
agreement.
this a local company, by the way?
They're based out of Fall River. They also charge mileage every time they come here, so that's an
I
extra.
started at $20
For
for
their,
the driver.
for their mileage, in addition to the hourly rate, which is up to $125 an hour on field.
Right.
So,
My only concern about the contract itself, you know, or the proposal that they have, which is, you know, to replace the controller and whatever, was that he had put additional things in the email that are not included on the proposal. For example, he said, we recommend a yearly visit to ensure that all software in the controller is up to date, which I understand would be a service agreement. But it says, the controller comes with a 3-year service maintenance agreement, which means that all updates from Honeywell Tritium will be included free of charge. That,
right, but, so,
do you know what I mean? Like,
right,
just-
but that's from, the updates are from, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I can gather from it.
Right.
We're not paying Honeywell Tritium for updates, but we have to pay a technician to come out
To come
and
and do
install
the
the
updates.
updates. It's not something, and they're not just gonna hand it to us and be like, here's the update, you do it. I mean, unfortunately, so someone needs to be paid to do the update. So that's the, service agreement with Honeywell Tritium is providing those updates for free for 3 years.
Okay.
Which is a little bit longer than their, you know, 1.5 years longer than their warranty.
Right.
But somebody needs to install that.
Right.
And that's where that is,
But now
that's
you're,
what that's.
so then you're still in the same predicament on the hardware, because if the hardware fails, you're still gonna have to pay someone to come out here and fix it, right? Like, let's say the
Are you
controller.
talking about the service agreement now? or
Well,
are you
no,
talking
it
about-
says the control, well, no, because we're saying that right here, the controller comes with a 3-year service
Right.
maintenance
Oh, you're
agreement.
paying them for service no matter what. That's, yeah,
Right.
you're paying them to
That's
come
what I
out
thought.
for service, no matter if it's covered or it's not
Right.
covered. They're saying that with a service agreement,
Mhm.
we would not be paying them to come out to do these free Honeywell updates.
Gotcha.
Because we're already paying for it with a service agreement.
Uh-huh.
However, if you don't do a service agreement with them, you're going to have to pay somebody to come out and install the,
So
The
here's,
install.
But
It's
now-
covered, they're gonna do it for free for 18 months.
No, they're not gonna do it for free, they're
No.
going, we're
Well,
not
it should,
paying
if
for
you-
the updates. I see what you're saying, right, if it's the way that
The
it's worded,
first
if
year,
it's a 3-year,
first 18 months,
Correct.
they'll take care of it,
sure,
the free stuff that Honeywell sends down. After that,
right,
you're gonna have to pay him to drive out here and install it.
right, and it should be that way, but you're right, it's not.
It's not.
No.
no, that's what they're
No,
saying, that's what
it's
she's
not.
saying, it's the hardware itself, if something breaks on it, the hardware itself will be covered, but you're still, no matter what, you're paying for the guy to come here.
That's right.
Right,
So no matter what, you're paying your $20 in mileage, and you're paying his hourly rate, and you're paying for him to come out here to do all the things. But, so now the question becomes, if the controller comes with a 3-year service agreement, which means that the updates are free, okay? So now after this 3 years is up, now do you have to pay for the updates? Because according to
Right.
this,
right.
which is
Yeah,
also
well,
another
I would
question,
think so, but that's not, any vendor who is a Honeywell Tritium vendor could answer
Right.
that question too. That's the way that they're doing it. Like Honeywell must give the 3-year
pertaining to?
free updates
Mhm.
to this company because that's the product that they're using. But after that, that must be what their cutoff is. But we'd run into that, I think, with anybody.
right, I'm just wondering if the agreements go up, because now you
Right.
have to pay for the updates. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I'm sure that the company's not gonna just be like, oh, well, the company gives it to you for free for 3 years, and
Right.
we're just gonna, I mean, I don't
I'm
know.
sure not. Yeah.
It's probably programmed obsolescence. After the 3 years, you're gonna have to get a new one.
Yeah, that's what I figured. So then you
Right?
get your 3 years again.
I think that's very gray as to what exactly they're doing and what, I mean,
Right.
usually when you have something under warranty, it's under warranty, like you don't pay somebody to
Right,
come
but
out there
we're
and
not-
fix it, it's weird.
Well, when you're talking about this kind, we're not dealing with Honeywell
Yeah,
directly.
Yeah.
We're dealing with a vendor who, if we were dealing with Honeywell directly, then it would be covered.
True.
We're dealing with a vendor who needs to pay their technicians to come do work.
Right.
So that's how this company does. There may be some company that turns the bill over to Honeywell and, hey, your system failed and we're turning this bill over to you, but that's not how this company,
right, okay.
at least from what I'm seeing, is
And
handling it.
Honeywell doesn't service it?
Not that I
I don't
know
know.
of. Yeah, I don't know if Honeywell directly
look
comes
into
and
that.
services it or not. They
After
may.
3 years. you know.
Yeah, but that I don't know.
Well, you got no choice, you gotta get it done.
Right,
I mean, because,
Or
right,
else-
we're also
Or else
using
we're gonna
their
have to
temp,
hand
we're
everybody
using
big heavy
their-
coats when they come in.
Right, yeah, I mean, they were willing, they sent us, the proposal back in early December. At the time, I told them, you weren't meeting until January 8th. Were we gonna be able to have that loaner equipment until after you had reached a decision? And they said yes, but I can't imagine that if I call them
Okay.
tomorrow and say, oh, they haven't reached a decision yet, that they're gonna be cool with lending the loaner equipment for a month.
for another,
And then what do we do? It's January. Like,
right.
so it would be a little bit different if it were like April. So, I mean, the money is available to do it.
Pay it.
We're fortunate that the money is there, because if we were a different group, we
That's right.
don't have to be asking the town for this.
You couldn't put that in your budget.
Right. So,
Does anyone have any questions, any additional questions?
No, I'll make a motion to
Comments?
pay the bill.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
and I'll get more info on the service agreement from them. I also put a phone call into them because they hadn't answered the email yet, and I didn't hear back from anyone today. So, Jim's also aware that this service agreement was sent, and he has a few questions about it as well, and he's also going to reach out to the engineering firm again to find out if they have any suggestions for us, since they're the ones who contracted with this company to begin with. But I think if we could at least get the control in place, we can move forward, hopefully. I also, along the lines of the HVAC, I wanted to point out that back in December, when we didn't have heat, a comment was made that we could only close if it was below 55 degrees in here. We have no way of knowing what the temperature was in here. We've talked about this before, because we don't have, the thermostats are all tied into the HVAC system, so if the HVAC crashes, the thermostats go blank. So there's no way to know what the temperature is unless the HVAC is running. So we have now had the building department install thermostats so that we can see the outside and inside temperature, in case sometime in the future we're to lose the HVAC. Need to know what the temperature is. So, and it certainly wasn't lower than 55 degrees in early December when we were fine with the all the staff were good sports about it. Patrons who were here didn't seem to mind. I think only one patron in 2 days mentioned anything about it seeming a little chilly in here, so no one
Now,
was
is this
really
the
saying
only
anything.
heat that you have in this room?
That is the only, that's the only heat we have in the building is the HVAC, so where those units are, that's it, that's the whole system. So that's the only one we have.
So what'd they do before, Nancy? Have a wood stove?
No, we have an oil burner, which is still down there.
Right, it's not hooked up, but
Right.
it's still down there.
Yeah,
But,
with radiators, which
yeah,
are
all the
gone.
radiators are gone.
The radiators are gone.
Yeah, it's- Okay, next is the FY20 state certification.
So I just wanted to let you all know that we did get our state certification for FY20. those are the two big reports that I usually do in August and September. And we received certification on November 7th. We were in the first round again, which is always a good thing to be in the first round. The state award payments are made 2 times a year, just as a refresher on new info. We've already received the first award, and the second will follow in the spring. That's traditionally how it works, and traditionally the first award is smaller and the second one is larger. And the first award we received already is the highest we've ever received, and it's about $1,100 more than what we received in the spring of this year when we received the second FY19 payment. I think there's kind of 2 reasons for that. I don't think it'll always be $1,100 more. I think the state's in a pretty good position right now in terms of the state budget is in a pretty good state library budget, which is what is giving us that state aid. That's in a relatively good position. And our circulation to residents outside of Acushnet continues to go up all of the time. And we do, it's sort of a stipend for circulating to members outside of our own community. So we do get, I mean, it's pennies per circulation, but it all adds up when you're doing that regularly. So those 2 things combined, I think, are what is driving that larger amount this year. You know, and as you know, I mean, the state certification is vital, and we don't want to not be without state certification. It's so important, which is another reason why I wanted to mention it here today, because when you support us in the upcoming budget cycle to the town, it's important for the town to know that the certification is vital to us. It's not money we can always rely on having, but it's nice to have for extra things. It offsets almost all of our programming costs that aren't covered by the Friends of the Library, because the town we don't have a line in the town, but in the municipal budget for programs. So state aid, when the Friends can't pick something up, it goes to state aid, and that is quite a few thousands of dollars a year that are covering those program costs. So it's important to keep that in mind as the budget season is coming up. We're fortunate that our state award is so healthy right now. So just wanted to mention that.
It's good. Proposal by the Friends for a lockbox to be placed in the lobby book sale area.
So the lobby book sale, which is ongoing all the time, is pretty much honor system to begin with. Somebody comes up to the counter and they tell us that here's $1 for a hardcover book, and we believe them that that's all they've got is a hardcover book. So it's pretty much honor system. And when I say believe them, I truly do believe them. That people are being honest with us about it. So in talking with the Friends at a couple of meetings recently, a suggestion by them, came up to get a lockbox that's on the wall in the lobby book sale area, so that people can make or pay for their purchases from the lobby book sale area right into the lockbox. And then it bypasses the step of the staff having to take the money, bring it through our cash management software, which is then turned over to the town, and the town, I'm sure sometimes is wondering why FOL is on there and what FOL means. It means Friends of the Library, and they do know that, but in terms of, when they're balancing their books for auditing purposes, it's, what is this FOL money? If it was just being put in a lockbox, it wouldn't be coming over the counter and coming to us. The proposed, of course now, where did I put it? Here it is. It's only 10 inches high, it's 5.6 inches wide, it's 4 inches deep, it weighs about 2 pounds. It fit perfectly over there, but just if you want to pass that around, that's what the proposal is. And right to where there's the bookcase in the lobby book sale area, and then there's a little stand where the membership flyers are for the Friends and some other info. Could go right above there.
Gonna fix it to the wall.
Fix it to the wall, yeah. So we could try
You
to
know,
have.
last time you collected money over there.
But that wasn't fixed to anything.
It wasn't
And
fixed to
and
anything.
that only happened once, and
Yeah.
we've had it out there for at least 2 years since that happened. It's with no issue. So, I mean, it's, that same thing is still in use with no issue. This isn't fixed to the wall, we do have security cameras now, we didn't have security cameras before. So, you know, I think if it were emptied out also by the Friends on a regular basis, then there wouldn't probably be very much in there to begin with. So, it's just, it's, you know, I think that, as you all know, the Friends are incredibly supportive of the library. They're always trying to come up with new ways to make things easier for the staff, make things easier on me, make things easier on the public. So it's just a suggestion, but because it is involving hanging something on a library wall, we do need the trustees to approve doing that. And I mean, if it doesn't work out, it's certainly not, doesn't have to be permanent either, if we find it's not working.
Surprise.
It's $43.19 with
Comes
free
out of-
shipping, and that comes out of the Friends budget.
Might as well do it.
So we're just voting on
Yes.
hanging it.
You're just,
It's-
you're voting on the
That's it.
hanging of it, yeah, anything else to do with it is
It
really,
includes the screws.
I bet it does.
Maybe we'll-
I'm thinking, well, maybe one of the Friends will hang it for us, and if not, one of us will hang it, but we'll see.
Jim will do it.
Well, exactly, well, so it includes the screws, I'm sure, and it'll be no cost to the library.
You have to pay $20, somebody's gonna do it.
No, we're gonna, free labor, we've got it, we're good.
Do you want a motion to
Yes, please.
authorize this?
Yes,
I make that motion to authorize it.
Second it.
All in favor?
thank you. They're meeting next week, so we'll make sure that they know. Thank you. And, oh, no, sorry. That wasn't part of the announcement.
Oh, did you have any more?
No, not
Oh,
from
okay.
that, no.
On to the next thing.
Yes, sorry.
Okay, director's report.
The couple of things I just wanted to mention off the report. I know at least one of you noticed there was quite a few staff here this afternoon when you came in. Normally there's maybe 2 staff members and me and Sandra normally, but we have a few techs out there today, and it's, as I mentioned in the report, the sales network was offering the opportunity for a webinar on catalog search strategies, tips to make searching easier, how to use accounts, as something that also just came up to the desk, which is a perfect example of why I need the staff to take this kind of training. You know, the network now offers a mobile app, there's a mobile version of their website, there's a desktop version of their website, we have our own website. It's a lot, you know, most of our staff works 12 hours a week is like the average, I think, of all of our staff aside from Sandra and I. It's hard to remember all of these things, and when someone comes up to the desk, we should be able, whether or not you work here 8 hours a week or you work here 35, the goal is that you should at least know what someone is talking about when they approach you at the desk. And it was so important to me that staff voluntarily, on work time, bless you, participate in this style webinar. Sales is just starting to do this. This is why this hasn't come up before, but it was so important to me that they have the chance to do something like this, because I can't be at the desk the 44 hours a week that we're open, obviously, and I need them to know these things as best as they can. So that's why there's a few of them out there today. At a time when there wouldn't normally be, actually at this time normally there would have only been one person out there. But they came in, people who would normally work tonight, worked earlier today so that they could take the webinar, and now I'm covering their shifts tonight. The other reason why I'm mentioning this, because I did the same thing last night, so that somebody who doesn't normally work today could come today to take the webinar. I'm mentioning it because I think I'm getting back to that spot that I was in before, where I'm working the desk so that people can do other things. And this is not a spot I enjoy being in. I think it's one of the reasons why I'm a little tense this afternoon. I love working at the desk, but I don't like being at the desk because I can't afford to have pay somebody to work at the desk, which is why when that budget cycle comes up in a few weeks or a month, I'm not sure, I really need you all to be there to support that extra money that's in the technician line, to cover things like this. If somebody's out sick, it's still me who has to come in, or I have to jump through hoops to rearrange the schedule to accommodate a 4-hour shift. It shouldn't be like that. I mean, it shouldn't, I don't know what other department heads do, I mean, when they have sick calls, but I shouldn't be, Sandra and I are working alone tonight because we don't have anyone else here, because I needed them to take this training that they took earlier today. And hopefully they all got a lot out of it, and it's gonna make work life better for everybody here anyway, which will be great. And that's why I'm doing it, because I want to support them as much as I can, but I should also be able to say, hey, I can pay you an extra 2 hours to come in and take this training, versus me not getting paid extra to work their shift tonight. So please, when that budget cycle comes up, please everybody be there, because we may get pushback because we've padded the technician line, as you know, from when we did that, when we approved the budget back in November. So just an FYI on that. And that's why they're here today. The other good news thing, I know I feel very crabby now, sorry about that. I just feel like it's like I love working here, I love the people I work with, I love the people who use this library, but this kind of thing just is extremely frustrating to somebody who works so hard already, and now it's like, great, I'm gonna end up working, almost 50 hours this week so that people could take a training, because they couldn't have taken it otherwise. That just, it's stressful, to say the least. It's and again, it's not that I don't love doing it, I do love doing it, but if we could just get that, a little bit of extra money in that line, then it'd be, and again, that amount of money that we've asked for is a couple $1,000, so it's not like this is, I don't think, affecting anything major in town. I don't think, I hope it's not. Anyway, on a really good news side, we did receive word that the Mass Cultural Council grant for the Centennial celebration was approved, so that's great news, because we won't have to ask the funds for that money or use it for state aid. And it's awesome that the Cultural Council is so supportive of town entities like the library. So they will be fully funding the request that we made for $400 for a concert for the Centennial. And they also partially funded, which we only asked them for partial funding, to bring Greg Maychuk back, who's an artist who's come here for the past few years and came when the library was a community center. He'll be doing an art program here in April, and the Cultural Council fully funded the partial request that we put in for that, so that's great news as well. So, unless you have any other questions about what's in that report.
The only question I had was on the sales network, exploring the option. Is that gonna affect any, I mean, if they change the network, is that gonna affect any disruption in service, or?
No.
That's kind of like a behind the scenes thing.
It's a behind the scenes
That's what I
thing
thought.
that nobody would know what was happening.
That's what I
probably, if we didn't tell you. And things would eventually look different. How you see the website for the sales network would look different, how the mobile app would have to be different, like all that would change, so that's when people would notice it.
Would
But
notice
it would
it,
be
but-
cosmetic things, it wouldn't be, there would be no disruption in
No
service
new
to
library
switch.
cards
No.
or any.
No, because
stuff
we'd
like
still
that.
be the sales network, it would just be using a different system
Oh,
to
okay.
do the day-to-day.
Good.
We'd still be sales, so nothing would really
That's
change.
good.
And the contract, the network uses vendors the same way we do, and contracts are 3 years typically, and they've reviewed this before, but they've never explored the option in such great detail as they're doing now. And I think that's because there are a lot of expectations that people have on what they can see on a mobile app, what they can do on a mobile website, and I think the time has come, that the network wants to know if another vendor could provide us with better service for our patrons. So that's what they're exploring. But based off, the feedback I've heard from the people who attended that, and then from what I've watched so far, chances are they're not even gonna end up making a change anyway, they'll just renew the contract with the existing vendor. But it's nice that they've given libraries the opportunity to weigh in on that also. So.
I was just curious.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. But no, it'll be good. Something that's not in the report, but I wanted to mention that I just heard yesterday, about this, the, academic coordinator at Old Colony reached out to me yesterday because they would like to use the community room for 2 mornings in May for their AP testing. Someone had mentioned this to me a couple months ago, and then I, gave them my card and I didn't hear anything about it again, but I guess they're getting to their planning stages. The largest group of testers would be 42, which is totally in line with our codes for the room, so we wouldn't be going over code for the room. They just are needing a host site for this. And testing would start at 7:30 in the morning, but if it was okay, then I would work like 7 to 4 that day, so that I'm in the building and able to open it for them, or 7 to 3. The custodian most likely could change his hours also, bump up a couple of hours so that I wasn't in the building alone. So I think it's a neat opportunity. We've never been asked to do anything like this before. It's, Old Colony certainly did a lot for this building, for the rehab of this building.
Put you on a good list too.
Yeah. Right, never hurts to say, yes, we want to be able to, you did this for us, now we would like to do this for you. Yeah,
That's
and then
right.
maybe in the future,
That's right.
you'll make us a nice sign for something. I don't know, but you're right, you want to, it's nice to do that. So, as long as you don't have to vote on it, but as long as no one has any opposition to something like that happening, I think it's a cool thing to do in May, so. And if you are against it, you can let me know separately. And then finally, I did give you the summaries for statistics for November. It's on one side and December's on the other. December is typically our lowest circulating month, as I've mentioned before, and it definitely was our lowest circulating month for 2018, but we did circ 30 more items than the same time last year. It's interesting that children's circulation has continued to go up. Even the young adult circulation in terms of books has gone up a little bit, but there's been a little bit of a dip in adult circulation. Magazine checkouts have gone down, audiobook checkouts have gone down, but at the same time, as we've talked about before, the e-audio checkouts have increased. So even though physical audiobooks are going out less, the e-audio are going out more. E-book circulation is definitely going up after being stagnant for a while here. So the circulation is definitely up. It's just interesting that there's been a little dip in terms of physical book circulation for adults and print circulation of periodicals. So check out books when you're here for yourself.
What would be the shorter season between Thanksgiving and Christmas?
Oh, well, December is
You know,
always.
This is the only, check next year, because this very might be a boot because of that.
It could
Everybody
be.
gets stressed this year.
It could be. It could be. I mean, I'm not worried about it at
No, of
all.
course
I'm
not.
just saying it's just interesting that the kids, circulation is up, book circulation is up by almost 400,
Yeah.
and the adult circulation is down. But you're totally right. I mean, historically, it's a low month, so, which is, I think, understandable. I think we all personally can relate to that. So, as you said. So that's where we're at for circulation. Program attendances, that went up. We did offer more programs this year. We had a couple of class visits in there. And I think it's all good news on the statistics. Just we'll have to see if we can change that for next December. Those are all my announcements.
Thank you. Anybody have anything else?
Doug Carbon Electric, $960.
Yep, so thank you for mentioning that. That is, we had the issues with the heated walkway repeatedly, and knock on wood, the heated walkway is now working, and that's what it costs. But it's worked every time. We've had snow, it's worked beautifully, so
Okay.
hopefully that's the last heated walkway maintenance expense we see. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that.
Anything else? meeting date for next
So,
month?
actually, I'm hoping that we can meet one more time this month, at the very end of the month. The annual report is due to be included in the town annual report for town meeting, and the due date on that is February 3rd, and I found out with not enough time to get that written for today's meeting. So I'm hoping people are available to me on Wednesday, January 29th at 4:30.
It's fine for me.
I think so.
Is it good for you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Nancy, is that good for you?
Yep.
Jerry? Diane? Henry?
Yep.
Awesome, thank you. I'm sorry to do it 2 times in 1 month, but you did get a break in December from me, so.
Next meeting, Wednesday, January 29th at 4:30.
Perfect, thank you.
Alright, any other business?
Not for me.
Okay. Need a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright, this January 8th, 2020 meeting of the Acushnet Public Library Board of Trustees is officially adjourned. It is 5:15.